The NASCAR playoff point system is under a lot of scrutiny right now. There's tons of criticism. It's all over the place. And if you're a NASCAR fan like I am, it is running your mind nuts right now. And we're going to talk about it and we're going to break it down. I'm J.M. Asiri. This is Long Run Speed, a channel that is dedicated to NASCAR and how it can thrive in the long run. Guys, let's dive right into it. What's going on with this playoff system? What's wrong with it? What is good about it, if there is anything? Because a lot of people think the whole thing is terrible. I'm not one of those people. I have some things I disagree with. I have some things I agree with. We're going to talk about it all. So why are we here right now? Joey Logano just won the championship, and that, to a lot of people, doesn't sound right. And honestly, personally, I don't know how to think about it. Logano had the lowest average finish of a champion in a really, really long time. There is a ton of criticism on how this playoff system works. The fact that Kyle Larson, somebody who had 6 wins, double than anybody else up until Logano got his 4th in the championship race, double anyone in the entire field he wasn't even in the championship for. Christopher Bell missed the championship for. A lot of very, very good drivers didn't even make it to the final race. Let's talk about what is wrong with the current format. Personally, I cannot stand this whole win and you're in thing. I mean, why are we seeing Harrison Burton make the playoffs? 2 years ago, why are we seeing Ricky Stenhouse Jr. make the playoffs? All of us NASCAR fans know that these super speedway races are kind of a crapshoot. And at the end of the day, if you're still clean car, not in the garage area, with 3 to go, you have a shot to win the race. This whole win and you're in, I understand the idea from NASCAR. Sure, you win the race, it inspires people to go after the win, and you get into the playoffs. In theory, it sounds great, but when you have drivers like a Ross Chastain, and like a Kyle Busch, and like a Bubba Wallace, who run pretty consistently well throughout the season, maybe not so much Kyle Busch. I know a lot of you Kyle Busch fans, it hurts to hear that. It was pretty weird to see him have a terrible year the way he did. These guys like Austin Cindric and like Suarez, and especially like Harrison Burton, leapfrogging them, it's not a great look for the sport. That is one thing that I think they need to get rid of entirely. And I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but it's my take. This is another thing that I think is wrong with the system, and I think a lot of people actually can agree on this. I don't like the idea that the championship race is a championship race. I like the idea of a 3-race championship round. No other sport do you see the first couple of rounds be longer in duration than the championship round. You don't see baseball have a best-of-7 series in the first 2 rounds, and then the World Series is 1 game. So we got to take the randomness out of it in NASCAR. We got to take the random outcomes and get a bigger sample size when it comes to the championship round, especially considering that NASCAR is a sport that has every track is different. I mean, you could go from Las Vegas to Martinsville to Sonoma, all over the place, and each track is changing. Another really big problem, and something that we saw this year, probably the worst we've ever seen it, race manipulation. Martinsville was a disgrace. I mean, you had the Chevy blockade with Ross Chastain and Austin Dillon. You had Christopher Bell passing Bubba Wallace, who had a flat tire, which, by the way, 2311, they got to get better actors on the radio, because that was not convincing radio chatter at all. And then you have Christopher Bell riding the wall, which he didn't intend to do at first, but he kind of had no choice when he got up into the marbles and hit the wall, riding the wall, ultimately ending up in a safety violation, which advanced to 24. Both were wrong. Unfortunately for Bell, it came down to a matter of who was more wrong, and he was the one who was more wrong in that scenario. That is not something that NASCAR can be having, and is not something that fans want to see, or people who are trying to look into NASCAR, because at the end of the day, that's why we're here. NASCAR's hurting when it comes to ratings. This year was better, but we're still way behind the other sports. And the biggest problem, the reason we're sitting here right now, fans perceiving the champion to be undeserving. I mean, you never want that scenario to happen. Obviously, in any sport, someone's going to sit there and say they're undeserving. There are people out there who think the Chiefs were undeserving last year in the NFL, because people just like to be upset over things. But the consensus can say the Chiefs deserve to win the Super Bowl. With NASCAR right now, no other sport has such a large consensus of people saying, yeah, that champion, that's not the deserving champion. Next, let's go into what's right about the current playoff system. I think an elimination style, it creates excitement for the fans, and that's what the Francis wanted when this system first came about. It was that Game 7 moments. And I think that this gives you Game 7 moments, having your back against the wall, knowing you have to finish in a certain way, knowing you have to win to advance to the next round. I think that is huge, and I think that that should be here to stay. Another thing, just like piggybacking off what I just said, winning in the playoffs, emphasizing that is huge. At the end of the day, we want to see drivers win, and we want to see them win in big spot. Nobody wants to see, oh, he's got to finish in 5th place to move on because there's no win in advance. I know I'm contradicting myself when I said the win and in. Two completely different things. I don't like the win and you're in the regular season to the playoffs, but within the playoffs, I do like the win in advance. We'll talk about that later. I like how not every race means the same. I think if you had a Winston Cup style point system and every race just meant the same, and it's where you finished at the end of 36 races and that's where you are in the season standings, there'd be a lack of significance when it comes to these races and a lack of entertainment, and that is not something that NASCAR can go away from right now. So there's a lot of points that people made that really annoy me. Let's talk about them, and I'm going to catch some heat for this, but honestly, I don't care, and I'm open to discussion to talk about it. This whole thing that NASCAR isn't a stick and ball sport, stop comparing stick and ball sports to NASCAR, is a really, really dangerous and vague game to play because, yeah, obviously NASCAR, nobody has a stick in their hand. Nobody's throwing a ball unless you're Corey LaJoie in between red flags throwing the ball around at New Hampshire Speedway. This could be really, really misleading. So one of the things that I think about these stick and ball sports is there's no range of penalties when it comes to winning or losing. If you're in a stick and ball sport and you lose 53-0 or you lose 27-26, doesn't matter. Still counts as a loss for one team, counts as a win for the other. In NASCAR, if you finished in 1st place versus 2nd place, but the next race, somebody finishes in 1st place, you finish in 40th place, there's a difference when it comes to points. Not everybody, okay, that person won, all these guys below him scored the same amount of points. No, it's a sliding scale, so that matters a lot. That needs to be taken into context. In NASCAR, you can DNF. Ryan Blaney at Darlington, Southern 500 this past season, Martin Truex Jr. gets loose on the 2nd lap of the race, and Ryan Blaney ends up spinning. His day is over. Martin Truex Jr. collects him. There's nothing he could do about that. That's why I think that with NASCAR, having a playoff system is important because getting into the playoffs, not in a total way, but it wipes that slate clean. That, okay, yeah, you had those DNFs, you got unlucky, you still had great speed all year, you just had a couple bad crashes, luck didn't really go your way. As long as you were good enough to just get in, you're in, and it's sort of a restart. This is another point that I can't stand. I've seen it circulating saying, well, Kyle Larson had 6 wins this year. That was double anybody else in the Cup Series, and he's not even in the Championship 4. And a lot of those people are the same ones who align with we should switch to the Winston Cup points system, which I can't emphasize enough how bad of an idea that is. However, why did we go away from the Winston point system? Can we dive into that? Well, in 2003, the last time that was implemented, we had a man named Matt Kenseth, phenomenal driver, won the NASCAR Cup Series because he finished in 1st at the end of the season standings. Well, Matt Kenseth only had 1 win that year. Ryan Newman was the leader in the Cup Series with wins. He had 8 wins, and he finished in 6th place in the end of the year standing. So, to me, that completely debunks the whole argument of you can't say that Kyle Larson deserves to be in the Championship 4 and this system is terrible when Matt Kenseth was winning championships with 1 win a year. Another thing about the stick and ball sports argument with the playoff system. In the stick and ball sports, you finish with a certain record and you advance to the playoffs. Yeah, you're the 1 seed, you get to play the 6 seed. You have a bit of an advantage there. But the score is even, and there is no sort of advantage for anybody when it comes to going out there and scoring runs, scoring points, scoring touchdowns, whatever the sport is. In NASCAR, it's like being in a stick and ball sport and starting up 20-0. I mean, you have a points advantage that rolls over from the regular season, and I think that's really neat. Now, there's a lot of stuff that we could talk about here outside of the playoff system about the bigger picture and what's NASCAR's real problem right now, and I'll have other videos out about that stuff down the road, but we don't have enough time to get into all of that. Let's try to work out a solution here, because as I'm going right now, I know it may seem I agree with the current playoff system because I'm defending it a lot, but honestly, there are a lot of things that bother me about it, and I think that there could be huge changes made to it that could benefit everybody, and I'm going to give my proposal to that. Now, this is just my proposal. Shout out to Eric Estep, Denny Hamlin, everybody out there who's been making their own playoff scenarios. I think all of them are great, and I've kind of taken little pieces of each one and formulated into my own. I know not everybody's going to agree with this. That's just the way the world works. I'm going to piss off a couple people, and I'm okay with that. So I still agree with a 16-driver playoff field. There are a couple of big changes that I would make. First, stealing this from Eric Estep and Out of the Groove, he did a great job talking about this. I think the top 8 people in points should be locked in at the end of the regular season standings. This is all going off of regular season standings. There's no win and you're in. It's just where are you in points in the regular season. Those top 8 people, they're locked in. Now, those other 8 drivers who are going to be in the 16 driver playoff, they're going to have to compete. Once again, shout out to Eric for this idea. They're going to compete in a wild card race, seeds 9 through 16. I love that idea. Now, at the end of that race, the top 4 in the finishing positions in that race, of those 8 drivers, they advance to the next round. Now, we're in the round of 12, right? We're going to switch over now to playoff points. That's where the playoff points turn on, and the drivers that had great regular seasons, they have an advantage here. I think that playoff points should be more. I think that a win should be doubled. I think that a stage win should be doubled from 1 to 2 points, the win from 5 to 10 points. I think it's just going to make a bigger emphasis on winning that and reward drivers more and more and kind of give them a little bit more of protection in the playoffs. So once you're in the playoffs, those top 12 now, they're reseeded based on their playoff points. We're going to have 9 more races to end the year. Same thing it is right now. We're going to have a round of 12 with 3 races, a round of 8 with 3 races, and now the big one that I think everybody can kind of agree on this. Not a championship race. There's going to be a championship round, and it's going to be 3 races. There's a bunch of ideas out there. I think the most common ground here, because of scheduling and everything like that, we could do like a Homestead, a Martinsville, and a Phoenix. I'm totally cool with that. If you want to change one of those to Vegas, also cool with that. So there will be elimination style. I think that is crucial. I think that if we're right now, people don't like elimination styles. I think it's dumb. I mean, Kyle Larson, I know this sounds like a Kyle Larson hate episode, but he's out here 2 years in a row ending his season at Miami because of stupid mistakes that he made. And that means something. You need to put pressure on these guys. The greatest athletes in the world, some of the reason why we recognize them as the greatest athletes in the world is because they step up in the biggest moments. Your Michael Jordans, your Derek Jeters, the list goes on and on. So I think having that elimination is really important. Here's the tweak I have. No more carrying over into the next, resetting in the next round. I think that it should basically be a cutoff at a certain point. Okay, the points are rolling over round and round. There's a cutoff. Here's the kicker, though. If you win as a playoff driver, and you're still within the playoffs, obviously, if you win in that round, you are automatically locked into the next round. Your points don't reset. You get the points for that specific race. You get the playoff points for that specific race, and you are locked in to the next round. What that does is it still makes it important. If you won the first race of the round of 3 races, those next 2 races, you can't just kick your feet up and be, we're safe, we're in the next round. No, you're going to want to compete and keep collecting those points so you could climb your way up the ladder or build that gap between the guys below you and keep you safe until the championship 4. Now, how is the championship going to be decided? Once you get into the championship 4, that's where the points are going to be wiped clean. So you cannot carry any more points into the championship four. Now it is 4 drivers, 3 races. Who could have the best 3 races? That's going to determine the champion. And I think we saw the problem of, Penske's dominating at Phoenix. Penske's dominating on these flatter tracks like a Martinsville as well. They found something. That eliminates the whole, somebody's got a distinct advantage at this one track and it's not right to the rest of the field. It doesn't show the true champion. I think once you give that little variety of tracks, okay, how much more could you want? We're still going to have excitement. That third race, you're still going to have, no matter what, you're going to have the leader and the 3 guys below him in the championship four are still going to have a shot, at least 2 of them. If somebody DNFs 2 races in a row, that would be nuts, but you're going to have some competition. There's going to be that storyline of the fight for the championship. So just to review, we are keeping the 16 playoff driver format. We are going to have 1 wild card race that is going to eliminate 4 of the bottom 8 drivers. Then we move into the round of 12, which is going to have 3 races. There will be a cutoff after those 3 races. Whoever is the 4 lowest people with playoff points at that point get cut out, and so on and so forth until you reach the championship round with 4 drivers, 3 races, and that will crown your NASCAR champion. Hope you guys like some of my ideas. I'm totally open to discussion. This is something that is really, really important right now, and discussions like this are going to keep our sport moving. NASCAR is heading in the right direction right now, I think, even though we have this whole entire argument going on and sort of a tarnish on the season. But the Netflix show did a lot for NASCAR. We're going to talk about some other things down the road, such as NASCAR video games. I think have a lot to do with it. There's a gambling market out there. There's a fantasy market out there, things that haven't been tapped into enough. But it was a great NASCAR season. I really hope we could find a common ground on this and NASCAR could take some ideas that people are throwing out there and put it into their own and put it out there for maybe not 2025, but definitely 2026. Let me know what you guys thought of my proposals. Please look in the description, follow the show. It would really mean the world. It's a brand new show. I'm going to have a lot of good content coming out for you guys. And yeah, have a good one.